And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, a growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winter Haven, and even Wauchula. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers enter the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers."
Welcome to San Diego, California. Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon, throws up the middle. It's intercepted at the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, baby! Boom, boom, boom! Yeah!
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell. Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's going to be a tough team to stop, I think, at this point.
He said, you know what ring is my favorite one? My favorite ring is the next one. Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why'd you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time, throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw, throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. And the Buccaneer Nation will celebrate. And I want to hear cannons.
We do.
I want to hear cannons.
For sure.
And I think we are going to hear cannons. If I got to do the boom, boom, boom myself. Bucs win. Bucs win. Bucs win the Super Bowl 55. Tom Brady engineers the offense. The Buccaneers score late in the first half, early in the second half. And there the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them. How about the Buccaneers, huh?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski inside the 20 to the 15-10. Gronkowski to the 5 to the 4-yard line. Holy guacamole.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon, throws up the middle. It's intercepted at the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, baby!
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty, Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Live on YouTube today for episode 205. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. And it is the Midweek Mailbag edition of the podcast. We are halfway through the game week, essentially. Happy Wednesday to everybody catching us live. And it's a new show, new-ish show that we like to do. It's a mailbag concept. It's pretty simple, right? You send us questions, send us takes, send us whatever the hell you want to talk about this week, and we will talk about it. So we've got plenty of great questions geared up, ready to go. We're going to cover some Bucs news as well before we get to all that. But firstly, Evan got a new microphone. The birthday man this week. Happy birthday, Philly Bucs fan. How you doing, my friend?
Doing very well.
You sound crystal clear.
That's what people tell me. So I know there was, especially on last episode, thank God it was like right before my birthday last episode, because it was not not good. I went back and listened to it. I was like, oh my God.
Well,
so back
really,
now, and we got this mic set up. So
hell yeah, man! I'm glad you could crawl out of whatever dumpster you were in to join us this
yeah,
week.
I'm glad that I was able to talk for that long underwater. I don't know how I was able to do it, but I managed it, and it didn't seem like you or Stank really cared to save me from drowning. But which is pretty inconsiderate of both of you. But
I mean, listen,
I'll give it a pass. It's
listen,
fine.
I think one of the pros of doing a video podcast is that I can actually see you. You do have a camera
That's
clear
right.
enough this week to where I can see you. You do have the background all blurred up for no reason. I don't know why you don't have a cool backdrop like myself. I know you got plenty of Buck stuff in that house, but it's okay. I'm not picky. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you sound great, right?
Keep throwing shots. That's fine. I'm normally the one doing that with James. Why are you doing it with me?
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just in a mood this week. I'm glad I have a little bit of time off of work too, so we're gonna get plenty of great time.
You're not the only one that's glad.
Yeah. Shout out to our people in the live chat. Rock813 says, I always like this intro. I remember the times, Mean Gene. Hell yeah, buddy. That first intro for like the pre-show live audience on YouTube, it's a really long one, but if you listen to it from beginning to end, I always liked it because it's, in audio history of the Bucs. A lot of people don't like it because it's such a long intro, but I really enjoy it as we wait for people to get in the live stream. Emily Compa is also here, who sent us a couple of emails last week. She says, hey guys, that mic looks bigger than Evan's head. I think it's a field of view thing. You've got it so close to the webcam that it's just there, right? Helps with the audio quality. By the way, if you guys want to send us an email, it is encouraged for these mailbag shows. It's open all the time. canonfirepodcast@gmail.com. What were you going to say? No,
it is not. I have a big head, so it is definitely not as big as my head, but it is. Yeah, it's just like you said. It's just the angle that it's on. It's just trying to give you guys the best sound possible. So for now, I'm not a tech wizard like Rhett. I guess I don't have that fancy little contraption there that can just hang the thing there. But this is what you get. So
yeah, we're glad you're here, man. Let's go.
Where's James?
Yeah,
James, thankfully, is not anywhere to be found. So I don't know where he is. I don't care where he is. He's MIA, I guess.
I don't know why you're so mean to James. People need to know that he is a great friend of the podcast. I don't know so much about.
Oh, great friend of some of the people on the podcast.
Sure, yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into some Buccaneer news. As you guys can tell by the title of this episode, we have some pretty pressing matters at hand. The Bucs announced today that wide receiver Antonio Brown was placed on the COVID reserve list, and that's going to make his status for Sunday's game against the LA Rams kind of up in the air, because what's the rule? He has to have 2 negative tests within 24 hours of each other to be able to play, and he is vaccinated, but I mean, we're 4 or 5 days away from the game. It's kind of a tight window, even if he is vaccinated.
So he has to test negative 24 hours apart. So he has to have 1 negative test, and then 24 hours later, he has to have another negative test, and then he would be able to play. Not impossible, but unlikely. So now the difference, some people have asked me, and we haven't really gotten into it much on this show, but some have asked me, what would have happened if he wasn't vaccinated? So if he was not vaccinated, you have no chance to come back. If you are not vaccinated, you are automatically basically out 10 days. If you're not vaccinated, you're out 10 days. That's automatic. There is no, you tested negative and you can play. No, it's, if you're vaccinated, there's no way. If you're not vaccinated, you're not going to play. If you are vaccinated, though, there is still a chance. So maybe it's a false positive. There was some of those last year, with false positive. I remember the Bucs opponent this week, Matthew Stafford, last year. He had a false positive. He was one of the first players to have a false positive. So maybe, and if that's the case, that's great news. And Antonio Brown will be able to play then if he receives 2 negative tests. But it does seem like that's unlikely to happen.
Yeah, so let's talk about his status for Sunday's game, because in the mailbag this week, we got a lot of questions from a lot of different people regarding his status. I'll just ask simply, do you think he's going to play? I know we mentioned before, it's kind of a tough timetable because it is, less than a week, and not really sure, even with the treatment that he's going to be getting. I mean, these are pro athletes. They're going to do whatever they can to get him back in tip-top shape as quickly as possible. but is it realistic that he plays on Sunday or probably not?
I would be very surprised.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I just don't think if you test positive, I mean, obviously I have to give the benefit of the doubt that's not a false positive. That's basically the what I have to assume. So I'm going to assume that it's an actual positive, and in that case, he will miss. I would say it's probably about. I don't exactly know because I don't know the whole situation, but I would say probably a 90% chance he's not playing.
And if he misses this week, he's not going to miss the next game. Like this
No.
would be the only game he misses for a pretty normal, routine case of COVID at this point, especially with these vaccinated guys. But let's talk about the status of this team and the situation of like if AB's not out there, right? I mean, I know Antonio Brown was the team's leading receiver week 1. Went out there, had a great game, kind of disappeared week 2, but we saw, the huge explosion of Mike Evans that everybody was begging for after the first game. So this wide receiver core, it'll be an interesting challenge. It'll be an approach that the Bucs haven't had to bring so far this season. I know we're only 2 games into it, but they're going to be lining up different guys, looking for different mismatches. I think a defense like LA shutting down Mike Evans for 4 quarters is going to matter a hell of a lot more when you don't have Antonio Brown out there. But a guy I wanted to ask your opinion about, and I guess this also fits for the return game, because as we look at injuries, Jadon Mickens was not at practice today. But if AB isn't good to go, it seems like we could see the debut of rookie Jalen Darden this week, whether it's on offense or special teams. We should see him out there.
I think you're going to, especially since, like you said, Jadon Mickens, who didn't practice today, it's a little bit banged up. So I think you could see the debut of Jalen Darden. Like you said, whether it's on special teams or offense, I would bet it's probably in a special teams role, because the only positive, not to play on words, but the only positive about Antonio Brown going on the COVID list is the group that it hit just so happens to be the deepest group on the team.
Right. You've got 2 other number 1 receivers.
Yeah. I mean, and like Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller are more than capable. I mean, Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller, those were basically the guys that they went into last season with. It's basically the same group that they went in the last season with to start the season. So that's the only real, I guess, glimmer of hope there, or like, silver lining, I should say. So I wouldn't expect Jalen Darden, even if he does play, and let's say Jadon Mickens is ruled out and Antonio Brown can't go, even if he does play, I would expect him to just really show up on special teams. I don't think you're going to see much of him on offense. Maybe a little bit. Maybe they can find something, see something in the Rams defense that they think he can sort of exploit, but I wouldn't really necessarily expect it.
As far as predictions go with that number 1 wide receiver for the afternoon, you think it's going to be a big Chris Godwin game, or is it going to be more of a Mike Evans thing? I know that, any defense in the NFL is going to look at the Bucs offense and immediately think about shutting down Mike Evans, because we see teams game plan around it more often than we don't. But do you think it's a big week for Mike Evans, or do you see like a Chris Godwin type game? I mean, with the, plethora of riches that the Bucs have on offense, there's always a guy that could step up. It could be Gronk having 100 yards and 2 touchdowns for another week in a row. But I mean, is there a guy that you think kind of steps up this week in the absence of AB? Because every single week it could be any one of them,
Yeah, I mean, you would hope it would be Tyler Johnson or Scotty Miller, honestly. But I mean, with Jalen Ramsey covering one of Mike Evans or Chris Godwin probably at all times, I would assume. I don't really know. I guess I would lean towards Godwin. But like Jalen Ramsey plays in the slot some too. It's tough. It really all depends on what I think the Bucs can scheme their guys open against this defense. I really do. It just all depends on, sort of pick your poison. At what side of the field do you want to target? Do you want to test Jalen Ramsey at all? Dangerous game, but do you want to do it? Because I think he's probably, if not the best, he's one of the best corners in the NFL. So it's tough. It really is. I know last year, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans both had touchdowns against the Rams, and Mike Evans actually had a pretty nice day.
Oh, dude.
Against the Rams.
I will never forget that first Mike Evans touchdown. I think is probably one of the greatest plays I have seen inside Raymond James Stadium. Just single effort plays from any player in franchise history. Because for those who remember, Mike Evans caught the ball at like the 12-yard line, started making his way towards the end zone. There were maybe 5 or 6 Rams players in front of him, and he just fought through every single one to dive his way in for the touchdown. I was at that game in person, and I mean, that's what Mike Evans does. But every time I think about the Bucs Rams and I think about that game last year, that's the first thing my mind goes to.
Well, first thing my mind goes to is
I know you like to find the negative in everything. Go ahead.
I mean, they lost the game.
They did, but come on, dude. Let's talk about Mike Evans just being, freakishly strong for a minute.
I mean, I already know that. Like, where's the fun in that? I can't be the heel and not bring up the negative parts. So, only thing I remember is the defense getting torched. So, hope that doesn't happen again. But we'll talk about that more on the game preview show, which will be either Thursday or Friday. Guaranteed.
It'll be
guaranteed.
It'll be Friday, I think.
I didn't want to say any.
I don't know. It's up to you. Let's plan it right here on the show, right? We're live. We're
transparent.
You know, let's break the fourth wall
Rhett
for a
has
minute.
finally, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, Rhett has reached his max limit of hours at work. So he finally has some time off, I think, unless there's
actually,
see, there's already a change, folks.
Okay, so I was bamboozled. I went into work this morning and I was told that I had reached my max hours, but it was only for the pay period, which means today I was an extra and I went home early. I'm off tomorrow, and then I'm working Friday, Saturday. I'm off Sunday because I told them I have a part-time job on Sundays. Don't tell anybody. And then I'm sure I'm working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I
just wait until they find this channel.
No way. No way.
Remember, Rhett, Evan is from Philly. He has to find negative about something. That's true.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you.
That is true.
People left I don't remember who it was, but a guy left a comment on our show last week, which, by the way, if you guys are ever watching the podcast, leave a comment. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. All of that stuff helps us a great deal. It helps the YouTube algorithm. It pleases whatever they have going on at the headquarters over there, and it helps the channel get a little bit more exposure. But he commented and he was like, man, I like this podcast, but I can't even tell if we won the game or not. And I mean, I really thought about it. Like, maybe were we a little too critical of that game?
I don't know.
The Bucs dropped damn near 50.
We praised Tom Brady to no end.
We did, but apparently people were upset in the comments that you guys were being overly critical of Tom.
You guys
is, I think, the phrase. Why are you guys?
You guys.
Of Tom because he had a couple
you're
of
saying it to
overthrows
me
today.
You're saying it to me like it's like me and Stank. Like,
it might have been. I don't know. Stank was the one.
on.
Stank himself was the one who said that Brady had the overthrow to AB. He was overthrowing a couple of guys.
He did.
The deep game was not there today. Quote end quote from the Stank bastard.
It's factual.
But
I mean, real quick, shout out to Keo Gaming 5. Hey guys, I appreciate your guys' content. Thank you a lot. Really appreciate it. And now, are we gonna get on with this mailbag or what?
Yes, we are. We do have some more Buccaneer news to cover really quickly, though. Just some awards that need to be given out. We mentioned briefly Tom Brady. Let's talk a little bit more about the great start that he has had over these first 2 games. For the second week in a row, Tom Brady is your FedEx Air Player of the Week. After his 5-touchdown performance against the Falcons, who better, right? I mean, I know we talked about it with Stank. We'll probably talk about it more throughout the season. But Tom Brady is on a ridiculous pace to start the season. Aside from 2 BS interceptions, he has 9 touchdowns, his highest total of touchdowns throughout 2 games in his entire career. He is currently riding, I think, like one of the longest, highest active scoring streaks in the NFL. The Bucs have won 10 in a row and scored 30 plus in every single one of those games, which has yet to be done. I mean, let's take a step back and look at what this team has been able to do. Tom Brady is playing at an absolute madman pace right now. And even a lot of media outlets are coming out today and saying that he is, kind of a little bit higher on the MVP rankings than guys like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, if obviously they were handing out the MVP today. I know it's only week 2, so we've only seen a handful of games between these guys combined. But, I mean, holy hell, what a start for the 44-year-old Tom Brady, right?
I mean, there's not really much to say. It's ridiculous, and it just makes those 2 interceptions week 1 so much more annoying. Like, it makes it so much more annoying.
Tom even came out and said in like that Buccaneers Q&A thing, the only stat he really cares about, like, that kind of bothers him if it goes up, is interceptions thrown. Like, he cares about winning, but he even said it himself, man. He cannot stand seeing the interception thrown, especially when it was just a bad pick on his part, or even if it's those, BS picks that weren't even his fault, like both of the ones from week 1.
Yeah, that's just so annoying seeing those. But I think I saw something dating back to their 10-game win streak that they're currently on. In that 10-game win streak, I think Tom Brady has only thrown 6 interceptions. So yeah, and that includes the two. Here's the 6 interceptions, the 2 BS ones versus Dallas, the 3 versus the Packers in the NFC Championship game. Yep. Those ones are actual interceptions. Those 3 are the only actual interceptions that I'm gonna acknowledge. And the last one, the 6th one, is the one that it was. I'm not sure if anybody's gonna remember this, but it was week 17 versus the Falcons, and Scotty Miller had the ball and he dropped it, and it went. So that's another BS interception.
Well, he didn't
so
just
really
drop it.
Actual interceptions, he's thrown 3.
And Scotty didn't even just drop it. If I remember correctly, he went like end over end. And the ball popped out of his hands on the ground and then just landed in the linebacker's hand or whoever was standing there. We talked about it a lot. We talked about it last week. That's just Bucs stuff. Like, I even though we have Tom Brady and a Super Bowl title, there's still just Bucs shit that you can't get away from, apparently. But let's go ahead and carry on with this news and then get to the mailbag. Mike Edwards, who also deserves his props this week, got NFC Defensive Player of the Week. He was the one who put the nail in the coffin for Atlanta. 2 straight pick 6s for Big Mike last week. The other Big Mike on the defense. How about Mike Edwards, man? We talked about how this guy is just a natural playmaker. He always has a nose for being around the play, being around the football. And he said it himself, a lot of his career, he's always tried to be a ball hawk type player. And I mean, if him getting an increased role on this defense shows anything, that's exactly what he's able to do out there.
Yeah, he's a good football player. He really is. I mean, he picked off Drew Brees' last pass. I mean, what better way to really establish yourself than that? And then, obviously the second pick 6 was sort of made by Carlton Davis, but he's still there around the football. And the first was just a great break on the ball. Bruce Arians was asked about getting him more snaps, and he basically said, like, how much more can he play? Which, I mean, like, is true. Like, they weren't going to play Jordan Whitehead the whole game. I think people just want to see him kind of in that nickel role. I think people want to see if he's able to do that, get away from the safety and sort of go down into that nickel and see if that works, because they, obviously their corners haven't been great. Ross Cockrell hasn't been a great option in the nickel since Sean Murphy-Bunting went down. So maybe that's an option for him down the road. Him or Anton Winfield, I think would work in that nickel spot. So I think that's what the people want to see mostly. But yeah, I mean, they got to find ways. If he keeps playing like that, I mean, you got to find ways to get him on the field. So he's not going to get 2 pick 6s in the same game probably again this season. Maybe not even in his career. That's very rare, which makes it even more special, right? So it's just he's got to find a way to get on the field more, because he's a good football player, and he's too good to be sitting on the bench.
100%. Now we got our first injury report for week 3 today, and a couple of guys who did not practice. One of them we already mentioned is wide receiver Jadon Mickens, who was out with an abdomen injury. And the other one is outside linebacker Jason Pierre-Paul with a hand/shoulder injury. Now, I could be mistaken, but this is not the same injury that had him out last week. I know the hand was, but the shoulder is like a new development, right?
Yeah, and there's actually some less encouraging things on this. I'm pulling up a tweet from Greg Allman right now. If you notice, it was something that Jason Pierre-Paul had posted on his Instagram, and it was kind of, Greg Allman called it cryptic. It's a picture of Jason Pierre-Paul getting off a plane, just his feet, and then the the steps down, and it said, "Only God knows the true meaning of setbacks. Let's go get this news feedback." So he used the word setback. Does that mean that he's hurting a little bit more right now? Does that mean that his status for week 3 is in doubt? I don't know. He didn't practice today. So, and he really, how many times have you heard his name all season so far? I know it's only been 2 games, but how many times have you heard Jason Pierre-Paul's name? Not a lot. He's kind of been very quiet. So if he were to be seriously injured, that would maybe explain it a little bit. We'll see. I'm not speculating on anything. I'm just seeing his Instagram, and his Instagram says setback, and it seems to hint that there's something else going on. We'll see if he practices at all this week. If there's a chance he'll play, I'm sure he will then. I just think he's just going to gut it out. But, I also think maybe there's a chance he sits out. We'll see.
I won't go so far as to, try and predict if he's going to play this week or not. Because like you said, his injury status the rest of the week, if he's able to practice on certain days, if he's limited one day this week, at the very minimum, I still think he plays. I know last week we talked about it. He showed up on the injury report, didn't practice for a day, and we said, listen, that's JPP, man. So you can kind of give him the benefit of the doubt when injuries like this do arise, because he was on the injury report for one day every single week of the 2020 season. I think once the playoffs came around, I don't know who confirmed it on our show, but he pretty much didn't practice at all. So it's one of those things where it will be pretty telling, but for a guy like JPP, he's also pretty vocal with stuff like that. But he is also a guy who is no stranger to setbacks. We reported that car accident, 2-3 years ago, almost 2 years ago, I think.
2018. Yeah, time flies. It was already 3 years.
Yeah, man. He was poised to miss the entire season, came back in, I think, right after week 8, and then went on to just have a tremendous end of the season.
It was 2019. Sorry, 2018 was his first season with the team, so it's been 2 years. Apologies. Yeah, but I mean, this dude's had the car accident, the fireworks, this dude has had so many setbacks. He knows adversity and he's battled through it. So if there's any adversity here, I'm sure he'll battle through it just fine.
Yeah, that's what he does, man. That's JPP. Checking in on the live chat really quick. Rock813 says we got to run the ball. We actually got a question in the mailbag that we'll talk about here in just a minute. TB12 Goatman says game comes down to, can we get to the quarterback and can we keep Brady clean with the time he has? We will move the ball. And the red zone offense has been great. Yeah, it does seem like that, they haven't stalled out in the red zone. I know it still is early on in the year, but I was telling you before we started recording the podcast, I was watching the Atlanta game again today when I got home. And that first drive, dude, just that's what this offense looks like at its peak. The run game was doing what it needed to, nothing over the top. Ronald Jones opened things up with an 8.5-yard carry, set up an easy first down. It was just complimentary football, and this offense marched right the hell down the field. And I mean, it was against Atlanta, who probably wasn't ready to go at the start of the game, but like that. Listen, if you want to look at what this offense can be this season, I think go back and watch that first drive of the game versus Atlanta. So let's go ahead and get into the mailbag itself. We talked about Antonio Brown. That was one question we got, but let's talk a little bit more about this Rams matchup. Obviously, we'll go much more in depth on the game preview show later this week, but a couple of questions we got. One of them regarding Jalen Ramsey, who we already mentioned. One of the better corners in the NFL, a guy who is notorious for shutting down your favorite wide receiver. Now, we look at this Rams defense and how they matched up with the Buccaneers in 2020. They did play on Monday Night Football. And looking at this Bucs team, how they're equipped, we know the Bucs can beat a lot of teams passing. But even last year, this Rams defense held them to only 24 points. They got 2 interceptions on Tom Brady, one of them in crunch time on the game-winning drive like you had talked about at the beginning of the show, because you always like to bum everybody out.
Yeah, I never mentioned that. That's now you're starting to put words in my mouth.
But this question comes from Mikey Kelly, who says, who's Jalen Ramsey going to be matched up against the most? If my memory serves correct, he kind of bounced around everybody last year. Like, it wasn't just one receiver he was on the entire game. It was whoever was most fit to play in that situation at that time. Do you think it's going to be more the same this season?
I do. I don't really think he's going to necessarily follow a receiver. I think it's going to be more of just like you said. John Ledyard actually, I had a really good tweet I wanted to share when talking about this. So far for Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Ramsey has played 74 of 135 snaps in the slot this season, and Evans has played 72 out of 107 snaps outside. So, we'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to have Ramsey just follow Evans or follow Godwin. I think Ramsey's going to be in a spot, and that's what it's going to be. Now, obviously, situationally, they may have say, hey, Jalen, go on this guy or go on this guy. That may be the case, it's situationally. But as far as his base defense, I don't know if you're going to see, oh, that's Jalen Ramsey versus Mike Evans, and that's going to be the whole game. I don't think you're going to see that. You're going to get some different matchups. Mike Evans is going to get some different corner matchups. So is Chris Godwin. So is Tyler Johnson. So is Scotty Miller. So I don't think you're going to see Jalen Ramsey exclusively on one player, just trying to shut that player down, because he does so much more for that defense than just shut one guy down. Yeah. He's literally without him, I think that defense is just totally different.
And I think one of the ways that the Rams are going to want to approach this Buccaneers team on offense is it's not going to be one-on-one guys with, one guy tracking one guy all night, because it's going to be a mismatch nightmare when you look at what the Bucs are able to bring on offense. You got Rob Gronkowski playing like he's in his prime again. Tyler Johnson, like you said, who is a little, what's the word? I mean, his sample size is pretty short, right? He's a
little unproven. Yeah.
He's no Keyshawn Vaughn.
He's actually good. So.
So like Tyler Johnson is a guy who I think could get open and probably get some looks this game. Scotty Miller is just, your running fast guy.
If they want to win, Tyler Johnson's going to have to get open.
Yeah.
It can't just be Mike Evans and Chris Godwin doing all the work.
But Scotty Miller has the ability to burn pretty much any of their DBs, and that could come at a moment's notice. Like I said, I mentioned Rob Gronkowski. We know what Mike Evans can do. We know what Chris Godwin can do. And there's just a lot of different ways that the Rams are going to want to approach this. But I think one of the key factors in their defense is helping each other out, right? You can't just send everybody out there to cover one guy. You're probably going to have the Rams every other play try and figure out at least one player on the offense to shut down for that play. So maybe it'll be a double team on Gronk. Maybe it'll be a double team on Mike Evans, and they're going to survey him for the entire drive and maybe just have three guys on him the entire drive. Mike will probably find ways to get open, but I think if you're the Rams, that's what you need to do coming into this game. We'll talk more about it on Thursday. Another question that we had regarding this game that I do want to cover, I've already seen it mentioned in the live chat. This one comes from ZZLJ. I think I said that correctly. Will the Bucs need to establish the run against LA this week? I started to say it a little bit earlier. We know the Bucs can beat most teams in the NFL from passing. This is a pass-first offense. It's what they do well. The Buccaneers, actually, their passing percentage on first down this year is way the hell up compared to what it was in 2020. And I think you mentioned him earlier. John Ledyard had posted that graphic and said he was crying happy tears.
Yeah, thank God, because then people can stop going on Twitter and complaining. Like, I'm just so sick of it, man.
But establishing the run, it's something that this team feels like has yet to do this season. I know that the run game looked okay early against Atlanta. That first drive, like I mentioned, looked really good. Not sure who's going to get the starting nod this week. I'm sure you're going to get the same rotation. But with this Rams defense having the production they did against Brady last year, is the run game a viable option? Do you think the Bucs are definitely considering committing a little bit more this week?
If they want to win, yeah. I mean, if they want to win, the run game's going to have to show up. Like it just is. They can't throw the ball 50 times and expect to win this football game. I just don't think that's just not a recipe for success against this particular Rams defense. There will be opportunities to throw underneath routes. I'll get more in depth into what the Rams defense actually does on the game preview show on Friday. So tune into that. But I think somebody's got to step up. I don't know who it's going to be. And like, if my money's on nobody, like until somebody steps up, I'm just going to assume that everything they try is not going to work. And, Ronald Jones is going to stop, a yard short of the first down when he can easily get it, which was inexcusable. And then, later in the game, completely whiff on a block, another inexcusable thing, which is why, I have such a tough time, wanting Ronald Jones in the lineup when he's doing crap like that. Like, you can't be in the lineup and doing crap like that. Like, Leonard Fournette doesn't do that type of things. He doesn't. Like, Leonard Fournette is not a better running back than Ronald Jones, but Leonard Fournette probably puts his shoulder into that guy and gets the first down. And Leonard Fournette probably at least gets a piece of that blitzer, and is able to either knock him down and he doesn't even touch Brady, or it's a little bit delayed and maybe Brady can get the ball off. I don't know. It's going to be the same rotation, but your guess is as good as mine on who's going to start this football game. I have no idea. Probably the way the game ended for Ronald Jones on Sunday, I would guess they'll start off with Leonard Fournette and see how that goes. But, dude, I don't know.
It still feels somewhat early in the season to be saying stuff like this. And our next question is going to carry this conversation, but I want to say really quickly, I feel like at this moment in time, BA just kind of likes Lenny a little more.
He definitely does.
Maybe he feels like he can lean on him a little bit better because, like you said, he has a little bit more of a veteran mentality. I know Ronald Jones has been around for a number of years at this point. This is a contract year for him, but there's still just some mental stuff that it seems like he has to get over. And I think Leonard Fournette might be a little bit more of a mentally tough player than Ronald Jones. Don't take that the wrong way. But, I'm a big Rojo fan.
Sure people will. Don't worry.
It's early in the season. We still have 15 weeks to figure all this stuff out before the playoffs come around. So, it'll get figured out and this team will find ways to make it work. But the run game definitely under a little bit of a microscope this week when it comes to how the Bucs match up with LA. Our next question, which continues this conversation of the running backs, Ronald Jones in particular, comes from NoLimit_free. And a lot of people have been asking this. Is it time to move on from Ronald Jones? And it sounds like a pretty loaded question. In my opinion, I think it is a little early to be talking like this, but at the same time, I just said less than 5 minutes ago, it is a contract year for Ronald Jones. So if you're the Buccaneers and you're looking at which one of these guys in your backfield you're going to want to keep for next season, because likely it's not going to be both, I think the Bucs are leaning towards Lenny. But again, it is incredibly early in the season. It is barely week 3, guys. The first year injury report for week 3 came out today. But your thoughts on, Ronald Jones and his future in Tampa Bay?
You're right. It is too early for those things. But when it's not a slam dunk that a player should be re-signed, it's a valid question. I mean, if you were having this question about Carlton Davis, then you're like, oh, this is stupid, because we all know that, I can tell you with confidence, the Bucs do not plan on letting Carlton Davis go anywhere this offseason, even though he is a free agent. So I think Carlton Davis might even be a higher priority for them than Chris Godwin. I don't have a source on that. I'm just my gut feeling that they've tried to find this corner for so long. It seems like they found him. I don't think they're going to let him walk for a receiver who they already have a deep position group at, right?
Right.
So if it comes down to it, I'm not saying it is going to come down to it, but, I think a lot of it's going to come down to money with Jones and Fournette, because, technically, all 3 of the Bucs running backs that are active on game days, all 3 of them are free agents. So the running back room could look completely different next year. If it's not great. It's not a good start for Ronald Jones, and he needs to get it together. It's simple.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. When you're Ronald Jones and we knew this was going to be a critical year for him, and it has not been the most ideal start, but we still have plenty of football left this season, so I'm sure it'll be addressed sooner rather than later. And the Bucs have plenty of time to figure it out. Like we said, as this offense starts to get rolling over the first few weeks of the season, we will see what they're made of as they play a pretty legitimate defense this week against the LA Rams. Let's go ahead and get on to one of our next questions. And I figured we'd close it with a fun one, right? We'll probably talk some more questions from the live chat here, but this is the last mailbag question that we have. And this comes from Billy Jacobs Fanfic, a pretty interesting name here. I like this one a lot. If you could bring back one Buck from all time, one all-time Buccaneer to play on the current Bucs team, who would it be and why? And Evan, I'll let you go first.
Well, I think the answer is obvious, right?
Is it?
Got to be Josh Freeman. No,
he could be our Taysom Hill, our big
quick
slow
question.
Taysom Hill.
Quick question. Can I say Noah Spence? Is that is that like an option? Because if it is,
it's
then
Noah
that's my
Spence.
choice.
I mean, you can, sure, but like, give me give me your Noah Spence option, and then give me your no. You can't have Noah Spence option.
Okay, well, Noah Spence option, Noah Spence. Duh, that's obvious. But if I can't have Noah Spence, if you just handicap me and say I can't have Noah Spence, then I'm a big pass rush guy, but like the Bucs' current team, I don't know if they need it. So I'm gonna give him another corner. I'm gonna say Rondé Barber.
Okay, I like it.
I'm gonna give this particular football team. I'm gonna give Rondé Barber.
Well, I think it fits the narrative pretty nicely. We've talked a lot, or a lot of people have talked a lot over these last few weeks about a veteran presence corner, right? Like Carlton Davis is your corner number one, but the conversation about Richard Sherman has started to heat back up. You've got the organization addressing it now, people looking at other veteran corners just for the sake of conversation, but people feel like that's what's needed on this team. And I think Rondé Barber is like a perfect fit just with everything going on right now with this team. I will tell you mine. If you know me well enough, you probably already know who it is. I'm going to find every reason I can to talk about this guy anytime that I can.
I know exactly who it is.
I know you know who it is. A lot of people watching this show should know who it is.
I think he's right by you.
If you guess it in the live chat, well, Evan just gave it away. So I look at this Bucs team, especially on offense, and I mean, they're pretty much loaded at every position. And I think that they are loaded more than they ever have been in the history of the team, right? But what is the one thing that this offense is missing?
A fullback?
Well, not just a fullback, but just a big effing train back there to clear a hole and get you the first down when you need it. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette can't be the bell cow back. That's all right. When you don't have Rojo or Lenny out there, get the A train to do it, dude. He's going to get you those yards when you need them. And I know a Bruce Arians offense pretty much like is part of the reason why fullbacks are extinct nowadays, but you can find ways to make it work. If you can put Vita Vea in for reps at fullback, you can make room for a guy like Mike Allstott, and it just adds another dimension. I remember Mike Allstott could catch the ball out of the backfield better than goddamn Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette can.
You're probably right.
Come on, bro. So the A train is my pick. I mean, it might help that he's my favorite player of all time, but that's a great question. Thank you so much for your question. Thanks to everybody who sent in a question on the mailbag this week.
All right, let me ask you a question then.
Yeah.
If you could have any past Bucs quarterback as the current backup in case Tom Brady would go down, who would it be?
Oh man,
I know it's a loaded question, kind of, and it's putting you on the spot.
I
have an answer, and
yeah,
my answer's I honestly think, even though we give crap, I think the answer's obvious. But
well, yeah. But if I had to really, try and find someone who isn't the easy answer,
yeah.
It's funny because I gotta go back and look, you know what I mean? But there's
so many of them.
But there's not a whole lot to go back and look at. Like, who am I gonna get, bro? Steve
No,
Spurrier,
but there's so
Testaverde.
Yeah, no, you're gonna get Tim Rattay or whatever his name is.
Dan Orlovsky. I could get Orlovsky back there. Jeff Garcia, Chris Sims, Brian. I could get Greasy.
There you go.
I could get Greasy. I wanted to say Jeff Garcia just because, I remember he was kind of nice for us every now and again, and he had that veteran mentality. And I think a guy like Jeff Garcia could pick up where this team left, or, pick up a team where Brady left off if that was the contingency plan. So I'll go with Jeff Garcia. That's my final answer.
Okay, well, Jeff Garcia is probably mine too, because Jameis Winston's just too obvious, I think.
I mean,
he's the best. He's the best quarterback out of those guys. But
right.
Garcia gives you a little bit of mobility too. Like you said, he gives you that veteran thing. So I'll throw out another name just because you said Jeff Garcia. I'll throw out another name. I know like there's so many quarterbacks, right? But like Josh McCown, like would he be the worst backup in the world? Like he can win a game.
I would take Luke McCown over Josh McCown. I don't know if you remember Luke's tenure on the Bucs.
Come on.
He actually filled in when Josh Freeman hurt himself in practice. Do you remember that?
No, but like I don't need to. I know they had Luke McCown, but Luke McCown stinks. Like, no, Josh McCown is better than Luke McCown.
Mike Glennon's better than both of them.
No, that's not true either.
Yeah.
That's not true. I mean,
I'll tell you for that
depending on what Josh Freeman year I was getting, I would say Josh Freeman because he was like so up and down. It was like every other year he'd be so good. So if you told me what type of Josh Freeman I would be getting, I would choose him. But you just don't know.
The pre-cocaine era Josh Freeman, I think.
Oh wow, we're not accusing. We're not. I mean, is that like proven?
I don't know, dude. I had a coworker of mine who
we're not
with
gonna
Josh Freeman a lot.
Okay, well, we're not here to.
Are you? Is this where you draw the line? Josh Freeman slander? That's it.
Not when he's whatever.
Oh man, not when he's getting down with the snow, huh?
Man, oh man, this podcast took a turn.
That's the show.
That's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye. Yeah, I guess Jeff Garcia is the consensus answer. So
yeah, I like it, man.
We have a 39-year-old backing up a 44-year-old. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the experience factor is a must, but I trust Jeff Garcia in those decisions. Like, the answer is probably Jameis for most people, but let's not forget the high risk, high reward factor there. I think Jeff Garcia is a guy who is able to kind of, keep himself cool at the moments he needs to. And he can also sling it if he has to. Like Brad Johnson's another good choice, but Brad Johnson probably can't really like sling it in this offense, Like he's big bad Brad, but I don't think he's going to be able to just keep up.
Yeah, like Brad Johnson, Sean King, like those types of guys, like they wouldn't be great fits. Like you gotta you're placing that person on this current roster. Like that's what you're doing. So with the current coaching staff and everything. So I think Jeff Garcia would be a pretty good fit. That's also why I don't know if Mike Glennon would really work out as well either. I think Josh Freeman could because Josh Freeman had a nice arm, but I don't know if Mike Glennon. Mike Evans might be a better quarterback than Mike Glennon. But I don't know if Mike Glennon has the arm that all those other guys have, especially Jameis Winston, Jeff Garcia, those guys with the big arms, big playability. And like I said, Jeff Garcia has the ability to also scramble. So we have spent way too much time on this topic, but it is fun. I saw somebody in the chat say Steve Young. To me, that's kind of a I don't know, sort of.
You think it's like a getting him on a technicality?
Yeah, because Steve Young wasn't Steve Young in Tampa. Like if he was, he would have never got.
So whatever quarterback you pick, it has to be the Tampa version of that.
Yeah, the Tampa version. Yeah,
okay,
that's what it's got to be. Like it can't be the Washington version of Doug Williams when he won the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, it has to be the Tampa version of that quarterback.
Yeah, Doug Williams, great choice, man. I didn't even think of Dougie Fresh right
there. Yeah.
It's funny because actually one of the mailbag questions that I got, and we'll wrap it up with this, but one of the mailbag questions I got, I'm looking at my thing right now to see who it was from. Owen de Rosier, I think I said that correctly, on Instagram. He says, what are your thoughts on the GOAT, Doug Martin?
Oh, Doug or not? The muscle hamster.
Yeah,
that brings back some memories, man. That brings back some memories.
One of my first posts on Instagram. Actually, if you go on the CFP Instagram page at Cannon Fire Podcast, one of the first posts on the page is a picture of me with Doug Martin. I went to a Verizon store in Brandon, Florida, to stand in line for like 35 minutes to get him to autograph a picture. He didn't even autograph a physical thing for me. I took a picture with him, and it was on Snapchat, and I let him use his finger and just do his autograph that way because it was a last minute thing. I didn't have any physical stuff for him to sign.
I would have had him sign anything.
Right. I should have brought a mini helmet, but I was like, I think I was coming from work. Like, I don't even remember where I was, but it was
I have a mini helmet signed by Doug Martin, actually.
Yeah. I should have brought one. I got an Ernest Graham signed mini helmet.
I have my signed memorabilia. I have a mini helmet signed by Doug Martin, a picture signed by Mike Evans, and a picture signed by James Winston. Those are the signed memorabilia that I have.
I got my signed Mike Allstott. Watched him sign it in like 200 exact copies of this, but this one is mine. I don't have any signed stuff behind me. I probably should get some more of my signed stuff out, but I got a signed Ernest Graham mini helmet too. I might put that like somewhere over here. I don't know, maybe back there, but that's really the extent of the signed stuff that I got.
It's expensive, man.
Yeah, especially these private signings.
Mm-hmm.
Really quickly in the live chat, G Vegas, the moderator, says, "What's going on, guys?" Matthew Donovan says, "So no Pat's version of Brady. That's it. I'm out."
Yeah, you can't. Well, I think the Bucs version of Brady might be better.
Yeah. I mean, he's already off to a better start than he ever was in New England. Man, that's insane, isn't it?
Crazy. It's like, somebody asked me the other day. They were like, "So Brady has 1 year left on his contract after this one, right?" I was like, "Yeah." And like, if I still had the bet, I would say next year's his last year. But like, dude, if he wants to play until 50, I think he could. I just don't know if like family gets in the way of a lot of that, Like I don't know if Giselle would like want him like to actually do it. And I think he he values like that to a certain extent, like what do they think? And I do think that one of the big reasons why he signed in Tampa and not anywhere on the West Coast was because of being closer to his son, who is in New York. Like that matters. So I think it's more of a family thing. If he wants to play, if he was just a loner and he didn't have no kids or wife or anything, I think he'd play till 60. I don't know. He'd be a senior citizen playing.
I guess it is one of those things where like, how old is his, I guess he said he has a son in New York, but like his next oldest son is what, like 15?
I think Jack, I think.
Yeah.
I think Jack's like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And then his other son is like, I think his other son's, I think, the oldest one. His other son is the one with Bridget Moynihan.
I don't know. I don't know anything about being a parent. And I mean, I don't know anything about that. But I think for Brady, some of the question comes down to like, does he want to be a dad, a full-time dad?
Yeah.
Before his kids move out of the house and start doing their own thing. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that's a pretty important conversation.
That definitely.
I don't know what kind of Tom Brady conversations are had inside of his house with his wife. He does speak Portuguese though, so a lot of those conversations are apparently in Portuguese.
So even do you mean to tell me that if we bugged his house, I still couldn't figure it out?
Exactly.
That's what you're saying. I'd be like, oh, I finally got the footage.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
yeah.
What is this?
You're gonna need a translator for it, and then I'm sure once you try and find a translator, they'll lock you up for bugging Tom Brady's house. So it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, but yeah, he could like if he wants to. I don't know about 50, but like he could definitely play more than next year.
I totally think.
I understand. I understand. Like, you know how I feel about Brady. Like I'm, you might not
play it down for the podcast. Is what
I literally do.
Yeah,
I literally try to.
This
play
guy
it down.
has been a Tom Brady mark since I have known him. Like since the beginning of time, he has been one of the bigger Tom Brady marks that I know. And I've always been a fan of Brady too.
It's so funny when people say to me, "Oh, you just love to criticize Brady." I'm like, huh. I'm like, that's funny. I'm like, that is hysterical.
You know what that's called, man? That's called journalistic integrity, and we need more people like Evan in this day and age.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
What, journalistic integrity?
Need more people like Evan. That's what I think. That's good. Yeah, but I mean, he said obviously his goal was always 45.
Yeah.
Next year is going to be 45. We'll see.
Hey, you get another Super Bowl this year. I think the narrative changes a lot.
Well, no, I'm not saying he's definitely playing next year. That's 100%. But like,
because he's got to get the creamsicle game in. That's
the only reason. That's the only reason. He's like, oh wait, the creamsicles are okay. I guess I'll come back. And he's like, he like asked them. He's like, can I only come back for like one game? They're like, no, if you play in one, you got to play in all. He's like, okay.
There you go. Well, folks, that's the show. Thank you guys so much for checking out this mailbag edition of the Cannon Fire podcast live on YouTube today for episode 205. G Vegas, the moderator, holding it down. Matthew Donovan hanging out in the live chat. Frank G. Woo! With a picture of the nature boy. Rock 813, Richo 665, our buddy Neil. And, of course, TB12 Goatman, Ray Gonzalez, Emily Compa, and anybody else that I may have missed. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. If you're watching on YouTube and you have not yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Plenty of great Buccaneers content from now throughout the course of the entire season. And we actually have some pretty cool stuff in the works that we might be trying to get done before the bye week, so keep an eye out for that. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Jesus. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can check out my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram, rapidly approaching 30,000 followers. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Last but not least, you can find myself on Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. And I got to say something about it every single week, but we are getting closer and closer to the first ever Cannon Fire watch party. That's going to be going down November 14th.
Where?
At Berry House Beer Company, right outside.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I hear what I hear about Berry House is it's just a brewing company. So what are you gonna have for food?
Well, believe it or not, we have actually hooked up with the best food truck in Tampa Bay. Our guys at Wing Box. My dude Joe. I have been eating at this food truck since I think 2015. October of 2015 is the first time I ever had Wing Box.
You have an anniversary of when you first ate Wing Box.
I remember it. It was Halloween, actually. It was October. It was Halloween, the day of Halloween. They had the world's largest...
October 31st.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for remembering that.
Yeah.
They had the world's largest food truck rally in St. Pete, and we went out there, and that was the first time I ever had it. I had the chicken and waffle and a couple of buffalo wings, and it changed my life. And if you are a chicken wing connoisseur, it will change yours. They're going to be hooking it up at the Cannon Fire Watch Party, Berry House Beer Company, Ybor City, November 14th. Buccaneers taking on the Washington football team. It should be a great time, and we would love to see you there. I'm actually contractually obligated to bring this last bit to you. We actually have a company that reached out, Nico Sports, Nikco Sports, Nico Sports, I believe. And they are selling commemorative 2020 season NFL footballs. I wish I had a picture of one I could show you, but it's actually pretty slick, man. It's like a white leather on one side and then obviously a genuine football on the bottom. And it's got stitched on there the playoff schedule, the scores of all those games. I think the regular season, they've got Tom Brady and a badge on the other side, the score of the Super Bowl, the Lombardi Trophy. I'm going to post it on our social media, so make sure you guys go check it out. And if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the link of this video after we are, done being live and whatnot. But yeah, make sure you go check that out, nikcosports.com, and tell them the Cannon Fire Podcast sent you. I believe we have a discount code, and if you guys check us out on social media, I will let you know what it is over there to get yourself some money off, because I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but shout out to our guys.
It's just so professional.
Yeah, it's what we do, right? If the money's there, we don't care. So
my motto.
Yeah. Thank you guys for checking out this week's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast, brought to you by our good friends over at betonline.ag. We'll talk to you later this week as we go in depth on the Week 3 matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We'll talk to you later this week. And as always, go Bucs.